How's it going, everyone? It's Johnny Beard here, and welcome to a very special episode of Streamer Stories. We are live on Twitch. Hello, everyone. We have got PatchTheSquid in the green room, or behind the green screen. Should we get him out? Here he is. Here he is. Da-da-da-da-da. How you doing, sir?
Ooh.
Who's that?
Hey.
How you doing?
Hey.
How are you doing?
It's the Prestige. I'm doing great. How are you, Johnny?
Oh man, I'm great. I'm great. I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy that you agreed to doing this, man.
Me too. I watch the show quite frequently. I'm a big fan of what you do. I love hearing everyone's like origin stories of their gaming history and stuff. I love it.
Yeah.
So I was thrilled when you invited me. I was like, oh, hell yeah, it's my time to shine. Boy,
It's your time to
I'm
shine.
ready to talk about some games.
This is not like X-Men Origins, but it's streamer Origins, isn't it? What do you think about it?
Absolutely. We all got our like Weapon X programs we're going into, getting our video game powers.
Yeah.
Tight.
How do we get the powers that we've got now? How did we learn how to press the go live button? It is actually.
Was it? Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go.
Oh, I was like, was it like a vat of mutant like toxic Resident Evil gets spilled on you, or like you fall into a bin of like used Dino Crisis games, and you just come out with these like, I am gifted at this game, and I'm ready to stream it. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. All of those games, all the LAN from the 90s.
Of course. I mean, I feel like that's where most of us are starting from. It was such a good like time for video games. So I mean, it's no wonder that there's so many like streamers and content creators who want to be a part of it and like expand and tell their stories. And it's just, it's so good.
Oh,
what a time.
100%. We got some comments already. Streamer Stories with Odin. Oh no, we got Patch and Odin.
Oh yeah, I made sure he's lurking in the back. He's napping though. Big walk today. He's tuckered out.
Punchitsu. I vote Patch to read as a bedtime. I'm with that. Best ASMR. We got another great ASMR person in chat as well. Curse Pirates in there. Thanks everyone for joining us. This is going to be a lot of fun. Thanks so much. So, to the people who don't know who PatchTheSquid is, do you want to just give a small introduction to who you are?
I mean, sure. If you don't know me, that's fine. I tend to like to hang out on the sidelines more often than not. But I'm PatchTheSquid, degenerate variety streamer. I play a lot of like horror RPGs and fighting games, especially. Those are some of my favorites. And usually it's me and my dog Odin hanging out, listening to some tunes, just enjoying the game wordplay. Nothing fancy, but I like to create that like hangout vibe. And that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be the green room for all my streamer friends to be like, hey, I'm done for the day. I can turn off the personality. Let's go hang out and patch a stream. Let's just quiet over there. We can just no one's gonna bother us.
Definitely. That's a great way of putting it, actually. We've just had a raid from Slingbean. Hi, Slingbean. Thank you for the raid, my friend. I'm sure Slingbean wants to hear more about PatchTheSquid as well. Another friend of the channel.
Well, look, Slingbean's a legend too. That man, hilarious. He's like one of my favorites. I love sitting in on his streams. They're the funniest, hands down. So good.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for the raid, Sling. Much love. But yeah, we're going to talk about the beginning then. So what were your first like forays into video gaming then? Did you play games as a kid? And what were your earliest memories?
So I spent some time thinking about this because I was like, what was my first real like, oh, this is what video games were. And it was pretty early. I was probably like 4 or 5, and my mom had a Sega Genesis. And like she had the standards. She had Sonic. I think she had a Mega Man game maybe. But she had like Echo the Dolphin, the 7-Up game, like all like real like standard stuff. But there were 3 that really stood out to me as a kid. And that was Golden Axe, Altered Beast, and Mortal Kombat 2.
Oh, wow.
Those 3 games, like, they definitely, I think, set me on the journey. Like, by no means are any of them, like, I would say, blockbuster, masterpiece games, but they definitely set the tone for stuff I liked going forward. They definitely, like, exposed me to a lot of, like, concepts, like the music, the high fantasy stories, and then obviously like Mortal Kombat, just the brutality of fighting games. That was such a huge selling point for me. Those were like my first big 3, I would say.
Yeah.
And then from there I went to like the PlayStation, and that's where like that was my first console, where it was like, okay, we've gone from like I play with my cousins on my mom's console once in a while to like, this one's mine. I mean, my parents still, I think, played it more than me, probably.
Yeah.
But it was mine at the end of the day, so I can claim that. I
Yeah.
can own that.
That's interesting, though, isn't it? Because again, I haven't spoken to a lot of people on the show, like how much when parenting gets involved. So it's nice to hear. I always love hearing the stories where parents play the games because I'd never had that. I never experienced that growing up. So yeah, and then you saying that the Genesis was your mum's and then the PlayStation was yours. So how were the rules established on that? How is it that the PlayStation was yours? How did you claim it?
It was gifted to me. When my mom and my stepdad got married at the rehearsal dinner, they were like, "Hey, we got a gift for you. Here's a PlayStation. We're going to Disney tomorrow night without you. Have fun." And it was like, oh, you're like greasing my palm a little bit right now. Like, okay, hey, we got you a PlayStation. There's a demo disc in there. You'll be fine. We're gonna go to Disney for a week. You're gonna stay with your grandmother. You're gonna have a great time.
Wow.
And then they left the PlayStation at home, and I got sent to the grandmother's for the week. I was like, this is a scam. I was lied to. I didn't even get to touch the thing for like 2 or 3 weeks. I was man. I distinctly remember that.
No.
Trapped at grandmom's, no PlayStation.
My first console was the Genesis. And we got the Genesis. Well, it's a Sega Mega Drive here in the UK, and we got it. We ordered it, but then my youngest sibling was born. And so we didn't get to play it for like 4 or 5 days, and that was the longest period of time. It's the longest 4 or 5 days. Like, oh, my brother's being born. I don't care. There's a console.
Yeah, that's always how it happens, and it's like, of all the times, why is this like? I know family is definitely the most important, but like this game, Resident Evil 2 just came out, and why does it got to be right now? Why? Like, could you guys hold off on the birth for like a week?
Yeah.
Just give me a little bit of time with the game. I'd appreciate it,
Exactly. Right, there's a lot to unravel there anyway. That I want to talk about. So you've got Golden Axe, you've got Mortal Kombat 2, and you've got Altered Beast. I mean, Altered Beast, we'll start with that one. Altered Beast was a beast of a game. It was so hard. I mean, how did you find it? Did you find it hard, or did you even think about it?
Oh, absolutely. It was brutally difficult. I don't think I ever got past like... It was probably the third stage, because the first stage was the wolf, the second one was the dragon, the third one was the bear. I could never get past the bear stage on my own.
Yeah.
But thankfully I had like a cousin that kind of split the age gap between myself and my mom. And so he would come over to like hang out with my mom and play games. And then when she was like, "Hey, I got to take care of something," he would play games with me. So we would get through probably much farther. I think we got all the way to like the second gold tiger or whatever it was. But that was one of those games that I don't think I ever finished on my own until much later in life. Like I definitely picked it up probably 5 or 6 years ago on like an arcade version for the Xbox or something. And even then I was playing like, this is rough. This is a hard game. But definitely was like the early startings of my love for like the anthropomorphic creatures and like powering up and turning into cool stuff. I was like, that game definitely set that for me.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And there's a certain theme as well with the fact that, you've got technically beat 'em ups, haven't you? Altered Beast and Golden Axe are beat 'em ups, and then you've got Mortal Kombat, which is a fighting game. So that's really early doors flavor for your love of that type of game.
Yeah, like involved combat, something that was like engaging. There was a skill ceiling that I had to reach for. That was, even at a young age, that was so sick to me. Like, it was, oh yeah, cool, I can like punch and kick in Mortal Kombat. But if I, like, once in a while, I hit the buttons right, Reptile pulls up his mask and spits acid, or what was that? Someone tell me what that was. And, like, this was probably, 96, 97? So I didn't have access to the internet at the time. There was no, like, looking up fatalities and hidden moves and stuff for me. I had no idea, but you would hit these moves, and suddenly it was like, wait till my cousin comes back. And then he would come back, I'd start spitting acid at him, and he'd be like, okay. And then he'd hit me with Scorpion Spear or something. I'd be like, this is... look, all right, well, he'd go away for a week, learn another skill. And it was the same thing in not so much Altered Beast. There wasn't really that skill level, but there was definitely that, like, oh, just be patient, stop running into stuff. There was always something to learn, and that's, I think, what really like captivated my attention the most. Like, yeah, the aesthetics, the music, the visuals were all great, but I'm so like scatterbrained and ADHD that having the opportunity to focus all my attention on something that interests me at the same time, it was like a godsend to my mom to like keep me like, hey, I need him to sit still for like 20 minutes. boom, video games.
Yeah,
Took care of the
100%.
problem.
And so you started with Mortal Kombat 2. So did you play Mortal Kombat 1 afterwards? And what was your relationship? You mentioned a few fatalities there. So did you see those in your first like forays into playing Mortal Kombat, or was it like because it was kind of that time period where there's this hidden fatalities things that kids should not be seeing. It's not PG.
So I think if it had been a different time, I feel like my mom probably would have been like that, where like, I don't want them seeing this, because I would say more like that now. She's more conservative with the stuff she watches and like enjoys. But at the time, like I was 5 or 6 and she was like 27, 26.
Okay.
So it was very much a like she was playing her cousins would come over, they would play them, and I was just watching. There was never any like worry of the gore or anything like that. And I think it was always just made clear, like, hey, this is fiction, right? Like, this is fiction.
Yeah.
And that really, as long as that was instilled in me, and at no time where she like catching me being like, oh yeah, I'm playing the evil characters or something, there was rarely any issue, as long as like she was able to explain the context to me at the time.
And so you mentioned Golden Axe, you mentioned Altered Beast. You didn't mention Streets of Rage. Did you play that at all? Was it something that you weren't favourable with?
So, Streets of Rage missed me for a long time. I probably picked it up in arcades probably around 10 or 11. I used to like go to the beach in the summer, and if you're not necessarily a beach person, you spend a lot of time in that hotel arcade. And I had experienced the games I'd missed out on there. That like I wish I could sit here and say like, oh yeah, I played the hell out of Streets of Rage, because the combat system in Streets of Rage was so much more than Golden Axe or Altered Beast. Altered Beast and Golden Axe were both very simple at the end of the day. Where Streets of Rage had that like really primitive combo system in there, and you could throw and pick up items. There was just that would have blown my mind at that age. But unfortunately, I was kind of really limited to the games that my parents had at the time. Like, and later on, as more people came into my life that had video games, I got more exposure to more like variety. But early on, it was very much like those 3 games. I think we had a version of Street Fighter 2, maybe.
Yeah.
I think we had like the special championship edition or something. But all those games never really like grabbed me like those first 3, like Altered Beast, Golden Axe, and Mortal Kombat 2. Like I said, like there was like Echo, Sonic, the 7-Up game, but they never. I don't know. They didn't hold me. I'm noticing now that I'm like speaking about it, the pattern of I was definitely drawn to games with combat in them.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was also not allowed to watch Power Rangers as a kid because I would start trying to do like karate on people and like stuff like that. So maybe there's a through line here somewhere with me and like fighting, but it's over my head at this point. At this point, it's in the past. Yeah. And man, it's fun to think about though. It's fun to think about these old games that like I haven't played in years. I would love to go, like. It's really, I'm gonna be honest, thinking about this has changed like what I'm thinking about. Like, I'm almost done this game I'm currently playing. What should I play next? And I'm starting to think more about these like again, like tracking down a copy of Golden Axe would be the sickest thing. If I could get like a real Sega, if I get my hands on a Sega Genesis, I'd be so happy. That'd be so hype.
Similar thing happened with Beelzebub, our friend Beelzebub. He sat down with me on this, and then he was saying that he loves Blade 2, and then I swear that the weekend after he streamed Blade 2.
Yeah, I mean,
makes you think, doesn't it?
It's amazing what nostalgia can do. It's amazing.
100%. So you went to PlayStation 1. So what were the hits on the PlayStation 1 that really grabbed your attention?
Really, this is gonna sound real lame. That first demo disc.
Okay.
The PlayStation demo discs as a whole, I think carried a large chunk of my PlayStation experience, just because you can't afford to get games all the time. They were so expensive. And so I was really like, all right, twice a year you could plan on getting a game, your birthday and Christmas. And anytime in between, it was like, oh, we're at the grocery store. Hey, Mom, can I get this magazine? Does it have a demo disc in it? Maybe. Did you do your chores? I will when we get home. Okay,
yeah.
You got to wheel and deal as a kid. You couldn't leave stuff on the table. You had to use what you had. But besides those demo discs, right? Because those demo discs, like the one I distinctly remember that I had showed off Tomb Raider 2, Parappa the Rappa, and Jet Moto, which I ended up having all of them. I ended up going out and getting all 3 of those games. But unfortunately, I think my parents really took over those games. I think for the first like probably year or two of the PlayStation, I think the only game I really played myself was Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver.
Oh, such a great but hard game.
It's so good. And it was another case of like, hey mom, this is made by people who made Tomb Raider, so we know it's like it can't be that bad, right? And then day one, I'm like spiking vampires on the walls and stuff, and she just looks at me and I'm like, it's not real. It was kind of one of those like, yeah, okay, fair. They're the bad guys. I'm not, it's fine. That was probably my first like that, and then so I always split the categories right between like main video games and fighting games, because I feel like it's like fighting games are a different part of my brain. There's something completely and totally different. But right alongside of Legacy of Kain was Tekken 3.
Oh,
and that, whoo! You want to talk about like to this day has to be one of the greatest fighting games of all time.
Yeah, I said
it's so good. It's so good.
On Twitch, I said it when it was 25 years old, and in America, I think, like a few days ago. And I think I tweeted about it saying, for me, it's still, in my opinion, pound for pound, on release, the best fighting game ever made, in my opinion.
Oh, the sheer number of, like, I think the roster starts with, like, I want to say, like, 8 characters, but there's, like, 16 you can unlock or something. Like, there's a crazy number of characters in there. There was a lot of single player content. There was a training mode. There was lots of like all the different endings. Just like your bang for your buck compared to most, I would say, any fighting game since. I don't think could compare. Like if they released a Tekken package like Tekken 3 again, that'd be it. That would dominate the scene. It would be incredible.
Yeah, I mean the graphics increased, the sheer number of the moveset increased from Tekken 2 to 3. Like it's just so much more slick as well. Sorry, from Tekken 2. Like
absolutely.
I briefly played Tekken 2, but then my first proper forays into Tekken was Tekken 3, and it blew my mind. Like especially even like playing like Gon, that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the joke characters alone. You had Gon, Dr. B, and then you had Ogre and Ancient Ogre.
Yeah.
I think that's also where they introduced Alex the Velociraptor, and was it Jack the Kangaroo? No, Jack was the robot.
Yeah.
Alex, I can't remember.
Roger.
Oh, Roger.
Yeah.
Roger the Kangaroo.
Yeah.
Like that's when the cast it started getting like mega zany, and it was so much fun. It was so much fun to like, you had to beat the game with this character, and then you would unlock one, and then you had to beat the game with that character to get their ending. Yeah. It was such an adventure. And each ending was like varying from the high action, like Brian Fury punching tanks and throwing them around and stuff, to like Gon just being a happy little dinosaur on an island, like riding dolphins and stuff. And you're like, this game was so good.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah.
And I mean, the music to this day, I still listen to. I had it playing this morning. I think my alarm is the character select theme. Just that bass line hits. And you're just like, yeah, okay, I'm ready. Let me break out like the old DualShock controller, and like it's so good. And again, it was so much fun.
And again, just the idea alone of being able to play like the arcade music or the console versions of music. They had like 2 different soundtracks basically in one game.
Yeah.
Such a cool idea.
That whole, and then like Tekken Volleyball. There was so much in that one disc for. I mean, even compared to like games like I think Legacy of Kain, there was just so much more to do in Tekken, right? It's such a simple thing. Like, here's your stage, here's your 2 characters, go to town. But at the end of the day, I must have put so many more hours, like 3 times the amount of time I put into any other PlayStation game into Tekken 3. Easily.
So who was
game was?
Who would you go to at the time?
Oh,
because I'm sure it's different to us now, but
it's actually probably not that. Like, I mean, at the time, of course, I was probably like what, 8 or 9 at the time, so it was a lot of like, whoa, look at Jin Kazama with the flame pants, or Harong looking like he's a member of NSYNC or Backstreet Boys or something, because that was cool at the time. So I was like, hey, these guys are cool. But I always ended up playing Brian Fury or King, which now, and Julia Chang, who now today are my like 3 favorite characters, is Brian King and Julia Chang. And all 3 of them, like, King's style. King had so much style in that game. He had was it King or Armored King? It may have been Armored King that had the track pants and like some like Nike high tops and just a t-shirt tucked in, and that was his costume. It was the most basic thing, but like I think back on that and I go, yeah, I would rock that. I would get that style. I know a guy who sells those pants now, and I'm like, I gotta get me a pair. I need give me the Tekken 3 pants.
Yes, 100%. No, when I first played Tekken, my go-to was Hwoarang. But then, like you said, Brian's my all-time favorite character now. I love.
Yeah,
I could never quite.
There's something about him that's just like he's a sicko, but he's so fun. He's tough. He's mega hard to play as. Now that I'm older and I understand more, Brian Fury has to be like one of the hardest characters to play in that game, just because of the sheer amount of like skill and knowledge you have to master him. I mean, he's one of the few characters that has what's called a one frame or a frame perfect input. So you literally have a 60th of a second to do this perfect link in a move, and it's unblockable. It's super powerful. It starts a combo, but like apparently that's been in the game since Tekken 3.
Wow.
That's what's cool about Tekken is that it's like a legacy game, so they're iterative. Instead of like scrapping the game every time and like here are new moves and these characters play a little, it's the same moveset almost every time, just with little adjustments here or there. So if you've played Tekken 3 for 15 years and someone hands you a controller for Tekken 7, most of the time you're like, all right, I can pick this up in probably like give me a day or two, and you'd be great. Excellent. It's such a unique thing that they don't do in most games anymore. I think is why it stands out to me so much, because it's just the game hasn't visually has changed, the music's changed, the characters have changed somewhat, but I mean for the most part it's the same game it was when I was 8 years old. So, and that's fantastic. I'll sign me up for that any day of the week.
Did you play the other Tekkens in relative order as well?
Tekken 4? I probably bounced around a bit because Tekken 3 really held me down for a while. For me, fighting games, I spent a lot of time playing them on my own, even though it's such a like community and competitive game type. It was just one of those cases of like I would have it, and when my cousins would come through, we'd play it, and it'd be the best game we'd play all weekend. And then they'd leave, and I'd like play it for like a week or two, and I'd be like, I'm probably not gonna see him for a while. What's this other game? And I'd try something new.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I didn't like stick with them as much as I would have liked to until I was probably much older in life. Probably when I was in like my 20s is when I started getting like, okay, every fighting game that comes out, I'm gonna get in on it. I'm ready. Let me in. Tekken Tag 2. I must have spent I don't know how much time just like convincing people. I was in a barracks, and I would convince people to come play with me all the time. I was way more consistent as I got older because it was easier to get people to like play. You don't have to wait on your parents to set a play date or something, and then find out that friend doesn't even like Tekken or something. You're like, oh, you want to play like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh or something? Okay, we can do that too. That's so cool. I just, once in a while you wanted to find that person you can play Tekken with.
Yeah.
It was a little harder. So I missed, entries throughout the series. I definitely missed I think I touched 4 at one point at a friend's house. I may have picked up 5 on sale at one point.
Yeah.
I think I played it, it was very hit or miss. And I feel like, unfortunately, fighting games were the only one I really did that with. Any series outside of fighting games, I was consistent. But fighting games they're like I said, it's a weird spot where it's like, it's almost like it runs parallel to how I feel about regular video games. So it's very strange.
Yeah. And the reason why I mentioned it is because I played them in order. And like I was playing Tekken 3, I thought Jin's okay, and then played Tekken Tag, really enjoyed starting to learn more about Jin's movesets, and then Tekken 4 they did the huge storyline arc with him where he doesn't want to learn the Mishima style of fighting.
The Mishima style of electrics
so
and all that.
So he starts learning like is it karate or something like that? I can't remember. And it's like I was like, what the frick is this? I was like, what?
Yeah.
So I hated Tekken 4.
Yeah, I think 4 was the one that I think a lot of people complain about, and then 5 and 6 went back. But a lot of people, when they talk about Tekken 5 and 6, they're like, those games, like, balance was crazy. Characters were pulling off crazy high damage combos, carrying you wall to wall. It was a little less balanced from like a competitive and fair standpoint, but I hear they were very fun, at least. Which, I mean, I feel like that happens a lot when you have an unbalanced game. It's very easy to find the broken thing and have a bunch of fun. But like if you're a community trying to make it competitive, that's a rough sell.
Yeah.
So it's I'm kind of bummed I missed those eras, but at the same time, I'm glad, I re-entered the series as it was starting to like really boom and thrive and grow. So I was able to like get picked up on the upswing of fighting games because they kind of dipped there for many years. With arcades like being phased out and stuff, a lot of people just much rather play at home. Fighting games were harder to maintain. You didn't have that community of people putting their quarter on the machine in the arcade being like, I'm ready to go. Let's throw hands. It was, hey, we might get together like once a month, or maybe we'll get like a tournament set up or something. But a lot like trying to plan anything in the real world. Stuff falls through, stuff comes up. It gets harder to do when you don't have like a fixed location for it to happen consistently.
Yeah.
And so
definitely. Okay, so after PlayStation 1, where did you go from there? Did you play more Sony? Did you go online? Where did you go from there?
I mean, so after the PlayStation 1, we ended up getting a PlayStation 2 when we moved. Again, it was another like greasing the palm situation. We moved like from pretty far up north on the East Coast down south to Virginia, and like having to leave all your friends that you've been going to school with for 8 years and such. They were like, okay, hey, welcome to your new home. Here's a PlayStation 2. And honestly, like I thought about this too. I played mostly PlayStation 1 games on the PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
I love the PlayStation 2. There was a lot of like niche titles that were really like, this game was a great throwback. It was a fun rental at one point. Like the Ratchet and Clank games, Jak and Daxter, even the goofy niche stuff, Psyops, the Gauntlet spin-offs, all that. It was all fun. But there was only one real series that two series that stood out to me on the PlayStation 2. And they were direct continuations from PlayStation 1.
Okay, yeah.
Because on the PlayStation 1, besides like Tekken 3 and Legacy of Kain, what really happened, and this is kind of like a real pivotal moment for me, was my cousin brought over the first Resident Evil game.
Okay.
When I was like mega young. I was probably like, I don't want to say mega young, I was probably like 6 or 7. This is around the same time as Tekken 3 and all that, but it was clearly like out of my wheelhouse to play on my own. Like there was no way a 6 or 7-year-old was making it through Resident Evil 1 or 2. But my cousin, who was probably like 16, 17, and my mom, who was like 27, 28, it was very much like the three of us are going to sit down in the living room. I'm like wrapped in blankets, scared out of my mind. My cousin's controlling the sticks, and my mom's going, oh, yeah, the Wolf of the West and the Eagle of the East. Okay, so what if you put the medallions? And like we would sit there as like a team and go through these games, and it was incredible. And so I kind of missed those. I kind of like didn't really get the chance to play them because I was young. I tried to swing Dino Crisis at one point because I was like, it's dinosaurs. They're not scary compared to zombies. Mom, you gotta let me get this game. She's like, I'm not letting you get Dino Crisis because you're gonna get too scared and then you're gonna ask me to play it. And I don't have time for that. So I waited until my stepdad took me out, and then he got me Dino Crisis. And I got it home, and I put it in, I started playing it, and before I could leave the first room, I had to run and get my mom to play it for me because I was too scared. So again, I missed out on these games.
Yeah.
So then the PlayStation 2 hits, and I'm like, I got it this time. And Resident Evil 4 and Devil May Cry come out, which are both basically Resident Evil. I mean, Resident Evil 4 is obviously a Resident Evil game. Devil May Cry was built out of a Resident Evil game. Those two games alone just like carried the PlayStation 2 for me.
Yeah.
That was the moment. That Devil May Cry was probably my first series where I was like, this is one where I'm going to play every entry. I'm going to find every secret. It was Resident Evil without the scare factor, right? Instead of like being at the power deficit that Resident Evil leaves you at, scrounging for ammo and health. You're the demon killer Dante. Swing your sword and do crazy combos. Wahoo pizza. Watch me kick this demon in the air and air juggle him. Like, what's there to be scared of? I'm the thing they're scared of now. And that game, that whole series really like set it for me. Devil May Cry 1 was fantastic. Devil May Cry 2 was a mistake, but I was too young to know that at the time. And then Devil May Cry 3 came out, and it was just like life-changing. There was so much you could do. The combos, the style switching, the weapons you could find. It was, that alone makes the PS2 like my favorite console.
Excellent. Wow. So if you where from there then? So did you play it? Did you have, where did online come in? Like so PC or playing online? Where did those two factors come in?
So PC, I missed out a bunch on. The only times I ever like really played on PC was very much like browser games, like Neopets, and like I think I played like Age of Empires once or twice. I think me and my buddies played like Diablo 2 a little bit, but it was like the computer in the house was like, this is like new technology. Kids probably not going to be on this thing. We still had dial up, all this. So I kind of missed out on a lot of that. But when the Xbox, it was probably the Xbox 360 when I started dabbling with online. And that was very much like peak high school, Call of Duty, Halo, Left 4 Dead, Borderlands. Those 4 games and Xbox Live. Whoo! Those toxic lobbies everyone talks about. Yep.
Oh yes.
I was in there. I was never any part of the bigot stuff, but I remember those lobbies. And I remember just being like, dude, aren't you like 40? And as I'm like the 10-year-old kid being obnoxious, being like, what, do something with your life. Oh, and I was a little shit, but that really, like, I caught the online craze right at the right moment. Because like I said, it was like Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2, Halo 3, the first Borderlands. Those were like, and the first Left 4 Dead. And those were like just the perfect games for Xbox Live. Is get home from school. Did you do your homework? Yeah, sure. Headset on, let's go. And I'd have my homies who I'd just seen like 10, 15 minutes ago. And like as we were leaving the bus, is like, you can get online? We gonna finish that Halo campaign tonight? Oh, you want to take on Cromrax the Invincible in Borderlands? Like, we would set plans. And there every night it was a full Xbox party. Even if we couldn't all play, every night we were in there till 10, 11, just chatting. It really reinforced the idea that, like, for me, video games have always been a social thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that just really, like, reinforced it to me. Even when we would all be playing single-player games, we'd still be sitting in the party just being like, whoa, I just hit this part in Mass Effect. Whew. Let me tell you about the showers. And we would just gossip and theorize and talk. And it was the best.
Yeah, man.
That was the highlight of, like, online for video games for me.
Wow, 100%. So if you were stuck on a remote island and you could only choose 3 games, and you can have internet connection, you can have downloadable content, whatever you want to do, what would they be? You can only play free for the rest of your life on the island. What would they be and why?
For the rest of my life. So, fighting games, obviously, I would, as much as I love Tekken 3, if I'm able to have online and be able to, like, play functionally and stuff, that kind of changes it, right? Because, like, fighting games, like, they're great alone. You can do a lot, but it's missing an element without people. So I'd have to probably say, the new Guilty Gear game. Oh, no. Guilty Gear plus R. It's a older Guilty Gear game, an anime fighter, but it recently got ported and updated with a bunch of really good, like, netcode. So it plays amazingly online. It's very simple. It's very deep. There have been, like, newer versions that have come out that have gotten good netcode, but that one, like, there's just so much to discover, and there's so much variety in the characters that has kind of gotten filtered out and watered down a little bit in the newer games. So I feel like that would definitely eat up a bunch of time to, like, have to, like, relearn all these characters with their original systems. Another one would be Devil May Cry 3. Easily. There's just so much content, and I've come to, like, the terms that that's my comfort game. Whenever I'm in a funk, whenever I'm like, I don't know what to play, or if I'm just, like, feeling in a real blasé mood, I can throw that game on and just jam. I feel like I have, like, 4 or 5 versions of it right now, and all of them I think I've played through at least 2 or 3 times. I love that game. The replayability for me is just going to be forever. Just because it's just so much fun to try the different things. And finally, and this is so weird because I've been talking so much about how, like, nostalgia and all these old games shaped it and shaped my love for video games and how they should be social. But man, Elden Ring. Like, if you had asked me before 2 weeks ago, I still would have said Dark Souls or Bloodborne. I probably would have said, like, Dark Souls 3. But man, Elden Ring really, like, checks all the boxes for so many things I look for in games, right? The exploration and, like, discovery of finding weapons and grinding weapons in, like, a Metroidvania game where you have to go back and forth. Down. the like depth and variety of combat that you can get from like beat 'em ups and fighters and like action games like Devil May Cry and stuff like that. It's not as fast, but it's there. There's a lot of like combat you can explore. There's so much that game just in sheer size and replayability. I don't think anything's going to top it. Not for the next. Oh man, I don't want to say that, right? Because I feel like some companies looking at Elden Ring right now, being like, okay, we see you, and we're gonna try our own. But man, that game, it has been probably like, it's probably been since like Devil May Cry 3 or maybe the Resident Evil 2 remake, maybe, that I have felt this much joy just being like, whether I'm online or not, I can turn that game on and just be like, I'm just gonna wander. I'm gonna ride my horse. I mean, maybe some people felt that way about Breath of the Wild, but unfortunately, like, Nintendo kind of missed me as a kid, and so being an adult, I've missed a lot of it again.
Yeah,
I have, a lot of those games with the intent of going back and being like, I want to see what's going on with Mario. I want to see what's going on with the old Zelda games, Metroid, all of that. But it's hard to get into those games when you have everyone like screaming from the rooftops about nostalgia for him, and you're missing that, like, what feels like a huge part of those games.
Yeah.
So, I end up having to go towards the more recent examples of Elden Ring. It's so good. It's so good. I could play that game forever.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's a huge statement. But I mean, everyone just reading some of the chat. Hi, Mrs. Blitz. I met Elaine from before, fist bump for her. Mrs. Booth says he does love that Elden Ring splooge.
It's
Magic Bananas.
It's crazy.
Patch is about to crumb. Magic Bananas says.
It's great. So, if you think back to like what I said about Golden Axe, right? Golden Axe really instilled that like high fantasy, very like Dungeons and Dragons feeling. Like you had the warrior with the axe, you had the barbarian with their sword, you had the dwarf with the lightning magic and his axe. It was sick. It was this high fantasy, and like adjoining to that, with my mom also being young, she was also really big into metal. So Elden Ring feels like it's like the most like natural like next point for me, at least in this point in time. I can't think of another fantasy game where it's like I could turn on some old 80s metal, ride across a field wielding a giant sword, lightning flying down around me, dragons. It's like something out of like an old high fantasy like metal music video, or like a D&D game or something like that, which is just like, capturing that in a video game is it's so much fun. It's so enjoyable to me to like create these. It's almost like I create the adventures in my head, right? I don't approach the game and go, I want to play this type of character and use this weapon. It's all right. What's my character's background? Am I a paladin? Am I holy? Am I good? Am I a blood knight? Am I an edgelord? Like, it's so much fun to like create these stories in my head for these characters I'm playing as. It's like, it's so I can't say enough about how great that game is.
All right, so we're going to go for one of the best games of all time to ask the opposite question. Is there any game that you would class as the worst game you've ever played? Or is that too difficult a question?
The worst game I've ever played. There have been a lot. Yeah. There have been a lot of games I've been like, this is a nightmare. This is like, I'm just looking around my collection right now just because I've definitely played some games that I'm like, what were they thinking? What happened here? Like I mentioned earlier, but Devil May Cry 2 is horrible. It is so bad. It's just such a like, they stripped down a lot of the combat, the music's very forgettable. They took away a lot of like the weapons, and finding like running back and forth in areas is very much like a linear hallway type game, and you just shot your way through it. And I was like, this is pretty rough. I know another contender may have been, so I thought I spent some time thinking about these things, and Resident Evil 6 comes to mind, right? I know a lot of people loathe Resident Evil 6. But even that, I would still say is better than Devil May Cry 2, because there was like the co-op aspect, right? Even if you're a diehard Resident Evil fan, and you're like, what are they doing to my story? Look at my boys. What's going on here? Pierce, what? No. It's still, at the end of the day, you're like, man, at least it's a fun co-op game. Like, I can play that with a buddy and we can laugh about how bad it is. Where Devil May Cry 2 is just like, this is a slog. It is dry, boring, and it's like such a blemish on what's otherwise, I think, a fantastic series. 1, 3, 4, and 5 are all amazing games. I don't think they've ever dropped the ball outside of Devil May Cry 2. That game is a nightmare. That is easily one of the worst. That and maybe like Bloody Roar 4. That's another one. That's another case of like real cool series doing cool things, and then hey, we need to catch a new audience, do something different, and wow, this game is a nightmare. This is really bad.
Wow. I didn't even know there was Bloody Roar 4. So
wow. It was more like it even focused on like a new character. They started doing a lot more of the like, oh, there's all these animals in the animal kingdom, but we're gonna make an unborn, a chimera, a hydra. You're like, where's like the kangaroo guy? Where's the elephant guy? Where's like where are all these other characters? And it's so focused on this like weird mutant girl who didn't even turn into it. Was just so bad. It was so frustrating.
Oh, man.
Again, as someone who like was really into the anthropomorphic thing, like werewolves from Altered Beast, I was like, Bloody Roar's sick. And then the fourth one came out. I was like, wow. And now no one's heard from the series ever again.
No.
I feel like that's kind of damning evidence.
So, are you someone that plays like games for achievements, stuff like that? Trophies? Are you a trophy hunter, as they call them? Or is that not something that you're that bothered about?
There was definitely a time, right? During the Xbox 360 era where I was hanging with my friends all the time, it was very easy to be like, hey, did you get this achievement yet? Oh, you don't have it? Oh, well, it's a secret one. And I guess if you really wanted to get it, you might just have to get help from somebody. Don't know who that could be. And it's like, that was absolutely. I think I was like one achievement away from getting 100% on Halo 3. And then they like came out with a DLC pack, and I was like,
no.
I'm out. I'm out. Why'd you do this to me? Why? It was the same thing with Borderlands. I think I'm missing like one achievement from the original Borderlands, but it was like, all right, we're 4 DLCs deep, and I kept up. I'm giving up on this one. This one, I'm done. Oh, that was like a very short stint, though. I don't think that ever stuck with me too hard. Even now, it's like I look over at my screen right now, and I can see like my progress for Elden Ring is at 22%. And I'm like, that's never gonna be full. That's nope. It was never my main draw to play a game, was like for the achievements. It was always I wanted to experience the story, or I wanted to play with friends. One of those two things had to like occur for me to be interested.
Yeah.
And that was the big driving factor.
So, where did streaming come into the equation then? What made you think about Twitch and streaming? Was it YouTube on the horizon at some point at all, or was it just a Twitch thing?
So I think a big part of it is it was tied directly to how I enjoy these games, because it's not just like, oh yeah, I played Devil May Cry, that was a fun game. I'm playing Elden Ring, that's a fun game. I'm playing Elden Ring, and then I'm going on these forum boards and we're doing theory crafting. And I'm like learning about the studio, and I follow the directors on social media. And even in the early days, like even before like the internet was a big deal, I was always like, yeah, I got the magazines for the demo disc, but you can't always play the demo disc. So when you win, I would actually read the magazine. And that really instilled like a joy for me in the business side of video games and the like stuff behind developers, the art, just all of it. The whole like video game culture as a whole interested me. So having all these like opinions and reading all this stuff, I would love to talk to my friends about it. And most of my friends were like, yeah, okay, sure. Yep. Cool, man. Good to know. Until I would say something like, oh yeah, and so because of this, there's going to be a new Resident Evil game coming out soon. And they would stop and they'd be like, wait, run that back. What's going on? New Resident Evil game. And when that really started, it was, I because of all that, I was spending a lot of time watching Twitch and YouTube already. So I wanted to find these creators who were also talking about this kind of thing. The people that were doing the theory crafting and the digging, looking at, the hidden moves of Tekken 3 and all this stuff. I was always looking for like more information on the thing I liked. I have this like compulsion to deep dive. And so I started finding videos where they'd be like podcasts and stuff like that, and they'd be talking about games I liked, and then that's not true at all. They would say something like, I have like a passing interest. I played Tomb Raider once or twice, and yeah, Lara Croft, she definitely starts with like a shotgun. And I'd immediately be like, I need to comment, I need to email someone, like, no, she starts with pistols. What's wrong? Like, it was always something that I was like, I love talking about these things. And so when quarantine really kicked off, that pushed me to take it a little more seriously. I had like dabbled in streaming.
Yeah.
I'd probably done like a Monster Hunter stream or two just for like my friends, Fat Shaggy. He's like my local buddy, and it was kind of like fun for us to be like, oh look, like on this other website, that's us playing. That's fun, but it never stuck. And then once we kind of lost the ability to get together and play, it made me look at streaming again and go, all right, I have a lot of opinions. I like to talk about games. That's like the big draw for me, is to be social about games. So let's take a crack at streaming. And it kind of just went from there. It really just, I just fell in love with it. I had so much fun. Even if people aren't super like always engaged or interested in what I'm talking about, I have a ton of fun doing the research, finding out all these things, learning the ins and outs and little secrets and like quirks of all these games. And, you know, if people want to see that, they can. No pressure behind that. You know, I don't have any expectations of it or anything like that for my stream. Like I said, it's more of like a hangout vibe. But it's a hangout vibe with me constantly being like, oh, hey, so fun fact, you know, Devil May Cry built out of what was supposed to be Resident Evil 4. Like, I love telling that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know, not having friends able to hang out all the time was much easier to be like, hey, I'm just going to turn on my camera, scream it to the internet, and hope someone listens. And that's been like, it's been a lifesaver. It definitely, it's like a good outlet for me to get all that out, so I'm not constantly like in my group text messages being like, guys, did you see this new announcement? It's like, I can save that. I can talk about it on stream. And if someone's interested, they'll hear it. I'm not, you know, sending 50 texts every time there's a game show award being like, they just announced this. They just announced this. Like, I need a better place to put all this like energy and excitement for video games other than blowing up my friends' phones. So streaming was just like, it was a logical choice for me.
Yeah. Wow. Obviously, big up to Fat Shaggy if he's in chat as well. Yeah, what you mentioned earlier resonated with me a bit about like magazines, stuff like that, because that was the only way you can get the information back in those days, and yet now you're finding like Twitter and developers and Twitch and stuff like that. It's so much more accessible now, and that's a huge difference now. It's like we are interacting with developers a lot more now than we ever were back in those days. There was an us and them scenario back in those days. So tell us about your thoughts on that, and about like how much does that play into like what you stream and what you talk about?
I mean, I think that's not just video games, but like the world as a whole is just way more connected now than it was 15 years ago, 10 years ago. Like, it's like every day we're finding the good and bad with that, right? In the case of video games and like developers and stuff like that, it's great because they can like hear the community and they can respond to that feedback. And like for something like fighting games, it's great for talking about balance. It's great for talking about, hey, in the tournament, this character has this issue. It's a real issue. And we're able to just tweet at the devs. And a lot of the times, I shouldn't say a lot of time, but at least in fighting games, there's a bunch that will reply back and be like, hey, we're aware of this. We're looking at it. Should be a patch coming out in like a couple days or like maybe a week, you know, or we're going to wait on the patch because there's a tournament tomorrow. And if we rebalance everything, everyone who's been practicing for months is going to get owned, right? They're going to, all your work's gone. So that's been like great. But on the flip side of that, it also created this sense of entitlement where like if people don't like what the devs are doing or don't like what the game's doing, the new direction's going in, it's very easy to get caught up in that mob mentality, right? People start lighting their torches, getting like ticked off about all sorts of stuff. And it's like, it's really hit or miss. There've been a lot of great things from it as someone who enjoys that kind of content. Having access and like being able to communicate with smaller indie devs as frequently as I do is amazing. I get to hear so much more about like, hey, you know, we were developing this and now it's kind of in limbo because of this legal region or this legal issue with licensing, or it's in hang up because of this QA issue, right? We can't sell something that has this particular bug because it can do this. And it's like, to me, all of that is so fascinating and I like appreciate it. Like I said, at the same time, having people have like that easy of access to you, I mean, even just on like a personal level, right? Having Discord, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, like, you know, your phone, you've got email, you have all these ways for people to get a hold of you that I feel like it's no wonder people so often are like finding themselves getting burned out and overwhelmed by like notifications and the whole process of all this. It's like, it's really, it's less so much of like this one isolated change to like the world as a whole is changing. And we're having to now deal with the repercussions of that as well as the benefits, right?
Yeah.
We get the benefits of being able to sit in this call talking from across the world about video games from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But we also have to listen to, all the other stuff that's going on in the world that can be stressful. Other people can get a hold of you and bother you about those things. And, it's like I said, it's great. Definitely has a drawback that I think, society as a whole, we're going to have to learn how to deal with in one way or another.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better, man. Couldn't have said it better. So just going back to streaming then. So have you got any favorite streams or streaming games or moments in streaming that come to mind that resonate with you the most in your time of streaming?
Honestly, most of the moments that resonate with me from streaming have not been on my own stream. Weirdly enough, it's all been like collaborating with people, playing games on other people's channels.
Yeah.
That has really been the highlight. Like I said, my own channel is very laid back, and it's not that I don't want to do collabs, but just because of time zones, it's often hard to like get that kind of thing. So I often feel like my channel kind of falls into this like late show category where it's like you wake up in the middle of the night one eye and there's like Hannibal Buress and Andre on TV. Like that's kind of where I feel like my channel's falling into that like Adult Swim late night category. So maybe the hype moments and like the high like energy times aren't always there. But when I'm on other people's streams, specifically starting the Zombie Squad, those like first few games of Left 4 Dead was such a like rush for me because that was a game again was peak when I was like right in the middle of all the online stuff and I hadn't played it for years. And then getting to play with people who all had to at one time or another enjoyed it and just we had a blast. That alone. Those games got so crazy and out of hand. And the other one actually took place on our friend Soulstrike stream, Cage. We set up a Killer Instinct lobby one day. Again, like an older fighter game, probably like 10 years old at this point. But we managed to get, D-Cannon, D-Mac, Metality, even Belzy, Fat Shaggy. We were all piling in, just having just a toss, just throwing hands at each other, having fun. Most people didn't know how to play, and that was totally okay. It was great. It was just this like fun moment of being like, hey, here's something I really enjoy. And I get to share it with people that also are like, hey, this is kind of cool. I'm having a good time here. And those two moments especially, just they stand out so strongly to me as like highlights above any achievement I've made in streaming, affiliate, the fun and laughs we've had with like the emotes, how I'm constantly swapping. That's all great. But like the times where I get to share something I'm really enjoying with friends, that's like the peak of streaming for me. That's really what it's like about for me.
And you mentioned like that your channel's kind of like the late show. I mean, how is that for you? A lot of the friends that you have made on stream, like myself and DMAC and Beelzy, being around the world, across the world, like how does that for you in terms of like you've developed such a great set of friends from around the world? How does that feel?
So I think for a lot of people who are like new to Twitch and streaming and they're just kind of coming into this, it's like a very I don't know, it's a new experience. But as someone who's I've done a fair bit of traveling, so I already have friends all over, right? And then my like online experience before, even though I said it was only like a year or two of Xbox Live, the people that I used to join parties with, I have like two friends that live out in Ramsbottom, England. I'm not quite sure where that is, but they live out that way. They have flown over here and we've gone to concerts together.
Oh, brilliant.
I've had friends from like the middle of the country rent cars. I think I was like 16 or 17 at the time. So this is a little sketchy story, but I was only like 16 or 17 and I had like 3 or 4 other friends who were also same age group, but we all wanted to go to this Coheed and Cambria concert. And then we had friends from New York. And we had friends from Illinois, and we had a friend from like Arizona, and they were all like 20 plus, but they wanted to go too. So they all rented cars, drove down here, picked up a bunch of 16, 17-year-old kids, and we all went to Coheed and Cambria together. And it was like the coolest, like one of the greatest nights of my life. So like this whole experience of like meeting people online is like, this is great. What I can't wait for is the chance when I actually get to like meet you guys, right? Well, it's like, the world settles down a bit and travel's easier and stuff like that, being able to come out, like maybe set up meetups and stuff like I would love for the opportunity to actually get to like meet you guys. That would be I think that's the real goal for me, is to get to the point where like I can grab my passport, I can like get a sitter for Odin for a little bit, because like I love my boy, but I can't trust him alone. No way.
No.
And be able to just come and visit people, even if I have to like tour Europe myself and just ping across the countries. I will.
Yeah,
I would love to.
That'd be so cool. So, what advice would you give to anyone thinking of streaming? And you've kind of touched on a few things already, but just as a summary, really, what advice would you give?
Like if I had to condense it down to someone who's new to streaming, someone who's coming to the table for the first time, I would say before you worry about anything else, right? Before you worry about numbers, before you worry about what kind of content you want to make, before you want to, first and foremost, you should just play a game or do something that you enjoy. Like your first like chunk of content, and you're like when you're getting your foothold on Twitch, should absolutely be focused on, I think, yourself. It sounds kind of like vain and selfish. You know, a lot of people go, well, you want to do this to help build an audience, and you want to do this, and what you want, I think you should always, you know, establish a base and make sure it's something you're going to enjoy, right? If you're not going to enjoy, you know, like there's just so much that this could go about. But I think first and foremost, you need to make sure you're having fun with it. Like you need to enjoy it before you start stressing yourself out over numbers, burning yourself out over a schedule, trying to rush to play the next greatest thing. Like you want to make sure you're having fun with it. Because as soon as that stops, as soon as it starts to feel like a job, I definitely have had moments where I've dropped off. I've definitely like, prior to even meeting you guys, right? I've probably been on Twitch now for like 2.5 years maybe. And I've definitely built myself up and let it fall apart a couple of times, just because you just get burned out. You're trying too hard to like please people, to appeal to whatever you think is going to get you the audience or all that. And it immediately really takes the fun out of it. It's like that scene in like Harry Potter where you see the Dementor sucking the happiness away. That's really, it feels like that. And I think, you know, even amongst our own friends, we've seen plenty of people who are just like, I need a break. I need time off. I'm not enjoying it. And it's like, and I would hope that a lot of that can be avoided. At least from my experience, I'm avoiding a lot of it now by just being like, I'm just going to play what I want. I'm just going to like, is this what I'm in the mood for? Without stressing too hard about, are people going to like it? You know, that was a huge fear for the longest time. Loving metal music. Metal is not the greatest thing to click into in the middle of a song, right? Because you're just going to get blasted by noise. That is mega intimidating. And for the longest time, I would have such anxiety about like, maybe I'll just stick to lo-fi hip hop, because I don't want anyone coming in here and being like, whoa, pulling out their headphones. This is way too loud for me. This is too much. And it's like, once I got over that, I was like, you know what? I like metal music. I'm going to play it. Now, granted, like sometimes you click on my stream and I'm listening to Christina Aguilera, and that's another story entirely. But, you know, I just realized I can't get stressed out about what other people are going to want from my stream. Like, you have to do what you want to do for your stream first and foremost, and make sure like you're having fun and enjoying it. Because as soon as it becomes a job, it's just way too easy to just have an issue, to burn out and just want to be done. So that's like my biggest piece of advice I could ever give anyone is, hey, have fun with it. If you're in a mood, just be like, hey, I don't think I'm going to be able to have fun tonight. Like you got to tell people how it is. Don't bend over backwards trying to please people right away. Because I don't think you should do that ever, but at least in the beginning, you know, before you start trying to go for, you know, big growth and all that, make sure you're enjoying it.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, one thing I love about you in your streams, and you hit the nail on the head as well. You know, like I do love that idea you've got in your head, where it's the late show. Yeah, it is for us as UK lot, but I'm sure there's certain people in America that feel the same way. But like, I love the fact that you have got such a chill atmosphere. It's one of the and despite the chillness of a PatchTheSquid stream, there's the fact that you're in control and you're doing your thing, and this is your safe space, your comfort zone. This is you, and you're welcoming people in. Like this is welcome in. You know, you're almost like a lovely snuggle blanket, you know, of Patch. In terms of
it's like the Peepo comfy emo where you like the little Peepo froggy, he's just kicking his little feet under the blanket. That's me.
That's right.
That's really like I mean, a big part of my stream for me is that it's also an escape, right? Like everything outside that door, outside these walls, is like real life. There's stresses, there's work, there's all this, and when I come to my stream, this is the time where it's like these headphones are in. I am in streamland right now. The only thing that matters to me right now, the game I'm playing, the songs I'm listening to, the people I'm talking to. And it's as much my break from the real world as it is people who are tuning in and like, hey, I'm just trying to relax and like I'm gonna turn this on in the background. It's just as much my break as it is theirs. So, you mentioned like the control thing, and I think a lot of people, I don't say a lot of people, I've definitely had people mention that that they think that I might be too controlling, or that I might be maybe shooting myself in the foot a bit when it comes to like growth and all that. But it's really like, if it's not a space for me to be comfortable and relax in, and it's not genuine to me, then I'm not gonna want to do it, right?
Yeah.
And so that kind of is what like I feel like it's something I've had to come to grips with recently, especially, right? Working on some other projects with other people, you have to make more compromises and be more willing to do things that typically you wouldn't in your own comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like doing that has also made me like, why do I not do X, Y, or Z? And why do I do X, Y, or Z? It's really made me consider and rethink how I approach streaming like entirely. But it's so much fun. I will, man, streaming is a blast.
It is. Okay, one final question, and then plug yourself, baby. Your final question, I didn't actually ask it before, is if you had to choose one game, favorite video game of all time, can you narrow it down to one, and why?
Could I narrow it down to one, and why? I'm gonna have to. Oh man, this is so hard. Why'd you save this one for the end? This is entrapment. Here's Catherine Zeta-Jones and Sean. I need someone get me out of here. No. Honestly, I think there's so many games. I'm even just like looking down at my like collection here. I'm looking at all the discs up there. I see like Metal Gear Solid and Silent Hill and all these games, but I think Devil May Cry 3 for me.
Yeah.
I think it's because it's such a comfort game. It was one of those games that I can just always go back to.
Yeah.
It's not that it's a masterpiece in any way. That is definitely a flawed product.
Mm-hmm.
It's not everyone's game. But for me, that's always going to be my go-to, hands down favorite game. I mean, it reflects in everything else I play, where how I want to be such an edgelord. White hair, red trench coat, big sword, backflips. Like, come on. How could I not? How could I not get involved? I'm actually, like, as I'm talking about it, I'm like, should I get a Devil May Cry tattoo? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
I'm going to start looking for a Devil May Cry tattoo. I can't even.
Yeah.
Whew. That easily my favorite game. Which is why this whole time I'm like, you know what? I know, like, Johnny Beard. I know the Nightbreed. They're big, like, Resident Evil fans. Dino Crisis. I'm a big Capcom mark. I'm probably going to end up talking about that. No, it was Devil May Cry for me.
Yeah.
For sure, Devil May Cry has stolen my heart as one of my favorite games of all time.
Brilliant. Patch, well, lovely chat, mate. Really enjoyed that. Do you want to plug yourself one more time? And also, can you plug the chat lords as well? What do you do? We didn't really get to chat about it, unfortunately. And also, anyone in chat now want to drop any questions for Patch? We can answer those after the plugging. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, most of you already know me, but for those of you that don't, I'm PatchTheSquid. You can catch me at twitch.tv/PatchTheSquid. You can also find me on a podcast every Saturday night called Chat Lords, which I host with two dear friends, Georgie Games and Soulstrike, otherwise known as Cage, where we just kind of just chat about our weeks. We touch on announcements and news, and we may even play some games here and there. We've been hosting some community nights, which has been a blast to try to like organize and figure out the logistics of, and like, it's like running a tournament, right? I love that whole experience of like figuring all this stuff out.
Brilliant. Awesome. We've got two questions there. So Gotham Beauty says, what do you use for your smooth hair? We all want to know. We all want to know your secrets.
Man. So, I mean, I'm still learning about hair, right? This was like, oh, I think I'm going to grow my hair. And then quarantine hit and I was like, whoa, 2 years later. And like, I got, it's a lot. As I'm doing research, I'm learning about like not using, a 5-in-1 shampoo. I hear that's no good. So I've been learning like sulfate freeze and all that. But really, it's like I'm just trying to do the best I can to not lose it. I'm starting to hit that. Like I'm coming up on 30, and I'm like, oh no, I'm shedding a lot. Is this? Am I supposed to shed this much? And I'm stressing, and like anything I can do to save it.
Oh, mate, I beard shed. I hate beard shedding. Can I just say? I'm
Oh,
so
see,
happy.
my beard doesn't shed, but
No.
like I mean, I see you doing it. You're sitting here stroking it.
Yeah, and that's
And
what it
like
is.
once in a while,
Yeah.
if I get like bad anxiety, like you find like a split end, and you might like tug on it. You're like, oh
Yeah.
man. So that's why my beard ends up always staying short. But I'm thoroughly impressed that I've managed to grow my hair this long. This is the first for me.
Oh no, yeah, Gotham's right. I'm in agreement. I wish I could have the long hair like yours. Mine goes into an afro, so I can't do it.
Oh, you've shown us pictures. I think it's glorious. Go for it. Lean into it. Embrace the curls.
Sling Bean, Patch, how was your DOA skills and also your Tekken main? 2 questions from Sling.
So my Tekken main right now is probably Julia Chang, just because they like finally put her into Tekken 7. I still play Brian. I still play King. Like I'm one of those people who I really love to flip around characters. If I kind of like hit a wall in skill or progress, I play someone else, and then I'll play like half the roster, and I'll come back and I'll be like, boom, I'm way better with this character now because I like understand the fundamentals of everyone else more. But like I said, Julia and King probably right now. Maybe Lei, the like Jackie Chan drunken master style.
Yeah.
That movie is just so good that I want to play that character, even though I'm terrible with them. It's a blast. And as for my DOA skills, they're pretty rough. I haven't played DOA since like, I want to say it was like Dead or Alive 4, where you could play as Master Chief. They had like a Spartan in there. It was like, that was a zany game. But I mean, it's a fighting game. At any time, if someone invites me to come play a fighting game, I'm usually down unless I've got like work or something going on. I'll play anything. Like something as simple as footsies, right? It's like 2 stick men that just have a punch and a kick and they go back and forth. There's no special moves or anything. I could play that for hours.
Oh,
sign me up.
brilliant.
1v1 combat games, they're my favorites.
Excellent. Oh, Patch, it was an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me. I love to just gab about stuff I love. So this was like no brainer for me.
Awesome, guys. If you like this chat, if you like Streamer Story Setup, I do have this on my YouTube. If you guys want to check that out, I've got the season 2 finale coming up on this weekend with Wreck-It Raven. She's amazing, so check that out. This will be put on YouTube probably Saturday, so check this out if you haven't already. Obviously seen the whole episode, but guys, it's been so much fun, and thanks again, Patch.
Excellent.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, man, no problem.